I'm probably not going to make another video like this again, or at least not for a while. So really the only videos that will be similar are the unscripted or partially scripted ones like the Megamind 2 video. Okay. Never mind. Jeez. DC Comics, a titan of superheroes. They're responsible for some of the most iconic characters of all time, like Batman, Superman, Ambush Bug, Condiment King, and The Flash, just to name a few. So with such a popular company, DC couldn't stay with only comics. I mean, media was changing. Now there are video games, shows, and movies all around us. So DC had to get hip and cool with the times. And they did just that, and made some of the most iconic video games to date, like the Batman Arkham and Lego Batman games. With shows, they gave Batman a pretty cool show with Adam West. They went into animation and made Batman the Animated Series, Superman the Animated Series, Green Lantern the Animated Series. You know, everyone was getting an animated series. And with movies, they had plenty of animated movies, Batman movies, and that one Green Lantern movie everyone tries to forget. Now, DC was on a roll. They were respected through their characters and everything that they've built throughout the years. But they were beginning to get overshadowed in a way. You see, DC obviously wasn't the only company to do superheroes. There was this other company, Marvel. And in 2008, they began their cinematic universe that would lead to them creating the most successful film franchise to date. We all know the story of the MCU, and if you don't, go check out my other video about it. But we're not talking about the MCU run by Kevin Feige, but rather DC's rendition of the formula, known as the DCEU, or DC Extended Universe. But in order to do this, they needed someone to oversee the project. And they knew just the guy to do it. But in reality, Zack Snyder will oversee the majority of the project, most dubbing his involvement in it as the Snyderverse. But it will end up becoming one of the most colossal failures in cinematic history, which in turn raises the question, was the DCEU doomed from the start? Taking inspiration for how the MCU started out, Snyder needed to start setting up some of our soon-to-be Justice League. But who to start with? Oh, he went with Superman? Personally, I think a Condiment King solo origin movie would have been the best starting point, but I digress. So Man of Steel was the first point in the Snyderverse, and honestly, this was a great choice. Henry Cavill was such an amazing Superman. General Zod was definitely a highlight as well for me. But despite the CGI being a tad silly at times, I still think that this was a great film. What's noteworthy about this is that it's not necessarily a colorful, optimistic Superman that most are used to from other forms of media he was in. Instead, this one felt somewhat darker, but in a way that worked. It set the tone for what they were going for without completely butchering Superman's character. Overall, a great start to the DCEU. After this, there will be a 3-year gap before the next movie comes out. Now, let's see. We've set up Superman, so naturally we should be setting up the other members like Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Green Lantern, etc. I'm just excited to see what DC has in store next. Whoa! We're already civil warring DC? I don't even know these people. DC hasn't dropped anything in 3 years, and Batman's first appearance is having to fight Superman? It took Marvel 8 years between the first Iron Man and Civil War, and now DC has it as their second movie? Oh my god! Okay, obviously they kind of jumped the gun with this one, and I think that this was the first real red flag. They haven't set up any characters other than Superman, so naturally I'm not going to care for them as much as I would Captain America and Iron Man. That's what made Civil War so good. The viewer is well aware of everyone that fought. So that, on top of the marketing of having to pick a side, made the decision much more difficult for people who were following the MCU. And even characters that had just been introduced, like Spider-Man, are already recognizable, and they use that fact that he's new as a way to cohesively introduce such a massive character. But with Batman vs Superman, the only character I really know of is, well, Superman. So with another massive character like Batman, sure, the same could be said about him with Spider-Man. But Spider-Man wasn't the star of the show. It wasn't Spider-Man Civil War, and by the time Spider-Man was really involved with the Avengers and whatnot, he had already gotten his own movie. So when one of your main character's first appearances is having to fight someone who's gonna be on the same team as him, is a bit silly. As for the movie itself, it has its good parts. I thought the actual fighting between Batman and Superman was engaging for like the 10 minutes that they fought. Ben Affleck was awesome as Batman, who had some great scenes and delivered some amazing lines. Jeez.
That's fear. You're not brave. Men are brave.
But that's really all the good things I can say about it. They got the least Lex Luthor actor they could possibly find. And don't get me wrong, I think that Jesse Eisenberg is a great actor, but you can't just make some guy bald and call him Lex Luthor. Just because he played the Zuck does not make him an intellectual mastermind.
Hey everyone, we are live from my backyard.
And remember how I said they introduced someone in Civil War? Yeah, well, they also introduced someone in this movie too. Can you guess who? Probably not one of the members of the Justice League, right? It's probably someone lesser known, so we can actually set up someone from the Justice League in their own project. Nope, it's Wonder Woman. And it was through email! Not only are they literally just trying to check boxes at this point, but they didn't even introduce Wonder Woman in a cool way. With Spider-Man, he swung in, taking Captain America's shield. But here they were just kind of like, oh, by the way, that one lady from that one part was Wonder Woman. Just thought I'd let you know. And there were some other things too, like how Batman was straight up using guns. And yes, I know it wasn't real, but it was still kind of weird. And also the fact that the fighting ended because their mothers' names were the same. Like that just immediately stops the fighting. But overall, the movie was okay, but we're really beginning to see what made the DCEU fail overall. So now that we have Wonder Woman in the picture, I think that the next move DC should make is definitely setting her up. Okay, where are we going with this? I mean, I could see why tying in the Joker might be important, which I'll talk about later, but doesn't he die? Also, I know I'm not the first to say it, but Jared Leto Joker sucks. Is it because the other actors before him were better, or because he was just horribly written? I think it's both, but that's besides the point. I do think that Margaret Robbie was a phenomenal Harley Quinn, and she was definitely a highlight in all of the DCEU, and that's what I think this attempt at a cinematic universe did really well. Aside from a few duds, there were a lot of really good casting choices. Anyway, back to the movie. Suicide Squad was a boring mess that didn't do justice to the characters they had in it, like Joker, Deadshot, Croc, to name a few. And I like that we're introducing new characters, but it doesn't really feel like it's connected to anything other than a Batman appearance at one point, which kind of defeats the purpose of a cinematic universe. So after this, we finally get that Wonder Woman movie. I don't have much to say about it, other than I think Gal Gadot fits the role well, and it's good how we're really starting to set up our Justice League. And because of this, it gives that reveal in Batman vs Superman way more of a purpose. So now that we're on the trend of setting up our Justice League, I think that we should do a Flash or Cyborg movie. That'd be really cool. Well, no, that makes too much sense. Instead, we're gonna do a 1-2 skip a few, Blueska 2, Weekend 2, and go straight to Justice League! The Whedon version. God, this movie was stupid. It was packed full of bad and kinda distasteful jokes. Ezra Miller isn't a good Flash, in my opinion. Speaking of which, this is the Flash's first appearance. And Aquaman's. And Cyborg's in a film. And not just some one-off clips. Cyborg was literally just a lifeless side character that just kind of felt there. And the Green Lantern disrespect needs to stop. I know that one movie wasn't very good, but not including or even referencing the existence of Lantern Corps in Justice League just felt so dirty to me. Now let's talk about the main villain, Steppenwolf. He had no motive other than, I'm evil, and oh, I forgot to mention, in Batman vs Superman, Superman dies! This guy got one full film and has already died before the team-up movie. And when they resurrect him, which I guess you could just do, he starts attacking them! And Gal Gadot gives her iconic, perfectly delivered line.
Kal-El, no!
Jesus, it sounds like someone trying to stop a 4-year-old from eating glue. Anyway, this movie was not well received. But what made this interesting was that this wasn't the original version of the film. In fact, Zack Snyder was supposed to direct it, but had to step down after a family issue. So Joss Whedon took the role, who was responsible for the first 2 Avengers films. But I don't think his style worked well with the darker narrative DC was going for. So once this movie had ended, their next project would be Aquaman with Jason Momoa. Better late than never, I guess. And it was a fun movie. My favorite part was the Black Manta fight, mainly because Black Manta is such a cool villain, and I'm so glad he got the spotlight in the sequel. I thought Jason Momoa was an amazing Aquaman, and I liked the suit he got. I think that this film actually did Aquaman super well, and didn't view him as that useless Justice League member that I think lots of people view him as. After this, we have Shazam, and I loved it. I really do enjoy the idea of introducing a character like Shazam. He's an important character, but not as important as the Justice League. So I'm glad he was introduced. And as for the movie itself, I enjoyed the villain. Shazam himself was great, and so are the side characters too. Overall, this was probably the best DC project that had come out so far. After this was Birds of Prey, which I haven't seen, but I do know Harley Quinn is in it, which is cool, I guess. Then came along Wonder Woman 1984. This sucked. When your villain is the keeper of the wishing rock, then that kind of ruins it for me. And Cheetah would have been cool if they had done more with her rather than the wishing rock makes you a cheetah. And with the whole romance storyline, it was just stupid and a bad way to continue Wonder Woman's story. So while all of these movies were being made, fans had been begging DC to release Zack Snyder's version of the Justice League, as he probably had a better vision for it than Whedon. And that's exactly what they did. When it comes to the Snyder Cut, I have mixed feelings about it. On one hand, they actually gave Cyborg some development and made him a good character. They did the same with the Flash by making him literally phase through a world-ending explosion in a beautiful scene. Steppenwolf actually has a motive, that being he was working under someone else, that someone else later revealed as Darkseid, who will seemingly be the Thanos of that universe. Also, Martian Manhunter was cool to see too. But on the other hand, that's really all the good things I can say about it. The majority of the movie was packed full of fluff in this 4-hour film. There would be scenes of people just walking around for 10 minutes. It doesn't add to the story, it's just there. Still no Green Lantern, and they didn't even bother changing Gal Gadot's delivery any better. And I will say, Wonder Woman's theme was really cool. You know, the first 3 times. And then when you play that theme for literally every single time she is on frame, it gets so annoying. But overall, this film was painfully mid. It was certainly an improvement from the first attempt, but you could probably cut out like a third of the movie and it wouldn't change a thing. Now, despite this not being a perfect movie, DC would follow this up with one of the best superhero movies of the decade. That being The Suicide Squad. It seemed almost impossible to make another Suicide Squad movie after the first one because of how bad it was. But oh boy, James Gunn delivered. First, all the characters were great, like Peacemaker, Harley Quinn, Polka Dot Man, etc. The fighting was amazing, Starro was a crazy cool villain, and all around this was, and still is, the best DCEU movie. Now, James Gunn is an important figure in this story. He was the director for all the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and is about to get kicked out of Marvel. So just remember his name, as he'll be important later. So the next films after the masterpiece that was The Suicide Squad was Black Adam. Wait, what? That can't be right. He was never talked about in Shazam, so why is he getting his own movie? Oh, it's an origin movie. But that still doesn't make sense. Cyborg and Flash haven't even gotten a movie. At least Batman's iconic enough to where he doesn't need one. And Green Lantern hasn't even been acknowledged yet. And Black Adam is the next step. Well, I heard that there's going to be a new Shazam movie, so this is maybe set up for that. Okay, let's take a look. Similar to the Snyder Cut, this movie was painfully mid. Basic villain, boring, uninspired side characters that can apparently persuade crowds of panicking people instantly. And our protagonist himself, Black Adam, claims to not be a hero, yet as soon as something bad happens, he turns himself in. The Justice Society was cool in concept, but wasn't executed very well, with half of their team having no more than 10 minutes of screen time. And the ending. Oh, the ending. When Black Adam is told that they're gonna send someone down to talk with him, who could it be? Shazam, right? I mean, Black Adam is Shazam's nemesis, so it would only make sense. Nope! Wrong! No, you see, the issue was that they gave The Rock too much power, and he said that he doesn't want to fight that random Shazam, but instead, he's gonna fight Superman. On top of that, he was advertising this movie like Black Adam was gonna be the next god of the DCEU.
Some of the other ones. Some of the other DC superheroes. Let's let Flash, Shazam, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman. Let's let them know something. Things will never be the same. Because the hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change.
But at least we have Henry Cavill back, right? Wrong, as he was pretty much kicked off DC in like under a month. So he showed up just to get people talking, and will never show up again. That brings me back to James Gunn. You see, the DCEU is failing, to say the least. They're losing a whole bunch of money and everything is going wrong. Enter James Gunn, who was just told by Marvel that Guardians 3 will be his last Marvel project. So after Gunn made the Suicide Squad, DC offered him the ability to oversee the DCEU. Now, after the Suicide Squad, Gunn would be the perfect candidate for overseeing this train wreck. However, 2023 was a big year for the DCEU, and there were 4 movies lined up. So Gunn decided he was going to bite the bullet, get those movies out, and start anew on a clean slate. The first of the 4 films to come out that year would be Shazam! Fury of the Gods. This was some of the worst DC content I have ever seen. My theory was correct, as there was no Black Adam, because why would he fight a random like that? Instead, it was the Daughters of Atlas. They were some of the most stale villains I've seen in a superhero film. I can't even remember why they were doing what they did. And the sacrifice that Shazam made at the end made me think, damn, that's actually really compelling. Like, he sacrificed himself for his family. Then they just bring him back to life. But this time he doesn't attack him like Superman did. No, he's just completely fine after. And then Wonder Woman shows up for literally no reason, adds nothing to the film, and then leaves. Billy and Shazam felt like 2 completely different people and actually never say why, so I think it was just bad writing. And they also have some of the most blatant product placement I have ever seen with the Skittles. Watch the freaking Ryan George pitch meeting. Like, he puts it perfectly. So overall, this was not very good. The next project was finally a Flash solo movie, following the Flashpoint storyline, which is such a cool thing to adapt into a live-action film. There was just one itty-bitty problem. It seems that Ezra Miller was so busy running away from the cops that he ran right into the film set making the movie. Yeah, so it seems that Ezra Miller isn't only a bad Flash, and as for the movie itself, it had some of the worst CGI I have ever seen, and the director tried doubling down, saying that it was intentional and a part of the story.
Stop the cap. Stop the cap right now. Stop the cap.
Yet you can't lie your way out of this one. The CGI was awful, and so was our star. Flash was annoying, and his twin was even more annoying somehow. The The twist felt lazy and I didn't care much because of how annoying the character was. The action was kinda lame too. It was cool seeing Zod again, and that one part right before he starts running at the beginning was cool too. Other than that, this was just a CGI slop fest with bad storytelling, and it just messed with everything. Now, these last two projects I haven't seen, but I'll still give my 2 cents on them. Blue Beetle, similar to Shazam, was cool because of the fact that they're introducing lesser known characters, and it makes me think that all of the Snyderverse was leading up to an Injustice storyline. I think this because of the scenes they showed in the Snyder Cut, and obviously that post-credit scene with Joker definitely hinted at it. As for the movie, I wouldn't know, but I heard it was alright. And the second one being Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. All I have to say about it is that I like Black Manta as the main villain, and I think it's a little weird that from the trailers, it looks to almost be a buddy comedy with his brother, who, mind you, tried to start a world-ending war and was thrown into prison. But that's just me, I guess. Anyway, after all of this, James Gunn now has control, and with that, a question arises. There's not many DCEU projects that I'm 100% sure are happening, so take what I say with a grain of salt. So first, they started strong, similar to the Snyderverse, with Superman Legacy. And yes, I know that they changed the name to just Superman, but the name's too cool just to drop for me. There's also a Batman project, and it supposedly has Robin in it too, which is awesome. As well as Swamp Thing, and freaking Booster Gold. That was not on my bingo card, that's for damn sure. And finally, some Green Lantern recognition. Overall, I am so excited for the upcoming DCU Part 1, Gods and Monsters. And I am very confident in James Gunn's ability to make a truly captivating universe. Now, when we look back on the Snyderverse, as the title of this video implies, was it doomed from the start? To me, the DCEU was obviously a way to rival Marvel's MCU. Each movie felt like it was there to check off a box that Marvel had done. The thing as a whole felt unorganized, as if they were just making movies, and then suddenly trying to tie it into a universe. Going back to Batman vs Superman, they were already trying to hop on that bandwagon that Marvel had going with Civil War. Unfortunately for them, they put rivaling Marvel over quality, and it resulted in Batman vs Superman being a lackluster project.
Bazinga!
Justice League was clearly rushed in hopes of a quick succession. This is why I believe that Gunn's universe will far exceed the Snyderverse, because Gunn likely knows that the audience likes quality, and he can absolutely deliver on a quality, carefully crafted film franchise that properly sets up characters. In his new slate, there wasn't even a mention of a Justice League yet, because Gunn probably wants to establish a world before a world-ending threat, which is a great choice. The MCU was more focused on its characters, Iron Man, Captain America. This allowed them to make a pretty early Avengers because all they had to do was familiarize us with these characters, because we already know where New York is. But it seems like in Gunn's universe, he's aiming to show the universe and some sort of power dynamic. This works because it shows us who really is a threat before they actually do anything threatening. Similar to what they did with Thanos, but on a much longer scale. So in short, was the DCEU doomed from the start? Yes, because of the lack of drive when it came to creating a quality series. Instead, they just wanted a piece of that Marvel cake. But anyway, that's it for this video, and I'm curious to see what you guys are excited for with Gunn's new universe. So let me know in the comments as I try to reply to them all. And I'm going to take a break on the whole cinematic universe thing for a bit, and even though I do want to talk about a specific universe, that's a story for another day. So, yeah, that's it for me. Bye.
Why so serious? Why so serious?